Hello and welcome in a new season of the Women of Power podcast. I am Angie Miorin, in charge of communication for CCR Re. At CCR Re, we are all about leveling the playing field for men and women in the professional area. And guess what? International Women's Day is just around the corner, giving us the perfect chance to chat with some incredible women leaders in our industry. So go ahead, connect with their stories, and let's all find the keys to building a fairer and more equal society. In this episode, we have the pleasure to meet Victoria Crewe-Nelson. Hi, Victoria. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Angie.
Together, we'll discuss the remarkable journey of Victoria, exploring the challenges she faced as a woman in the professional landscape, her perspective on fostering diversity and equality, and finally, the pivotal role of mentorship in empowering women. At CCR Re, we are convinced that being able to confront our point of views is a way to grow. To do so, I invited collaborators to join the conversation in this new season. We'll meet them at the end of the interview for the last question. But let's start with getting to know you. Victoria, you are Vice President, Underwriting and Customer Service and Board Secretary for LawPRO, an innovative provider of insurance and services that enhance the viability and competitive position of the legal profession. You started your career as a lawyer. What inspired you to go into the insurance field?
Well, I actually really enjoyed being a lawyer for a long time. But what I found was that what I really liked about it was collaborating with my senior law partner, who was a wonderful woman. And after she died, a lot of the joy I felt in the day-to-day activities of being a lawyer passed with her. And so after a while, I decided I was going to strike out on my own. And while I was preparing for this, I went to a lecture that was put on by one of the LawPRO claims team members. And the woman had discussed what to do if you have questions. You don't necessarily have a claim, but you have questions. And I was impressed with her. Within a few weeks, I had exactly the scenario come up that she had talked about. So I phoned her and I went through my questions with her, and she was great. And so I got a really positive impression of LawPRO from that. And so when I saw LawPRO was going to be hiring for someone with my background, which was familiarity with insurance and customer service, broad legal experience, policy drafting, it seemed perfect for me. And I ended up really finding myself. I love insurance. I rediscovered the joy of working in an environment where you're challenged every day. I'm trusted to make autonomous decisions about how my work gets done. I get to collaborate with a broader team. And so I get a real thrill out of being in insurance.
Thank you, Victoria, for sharing this very interesting path. We'll continue with the second question. As a woman, what obstacles and stereotypes have you had to overcome to thrive in your business and the broader professional landscape?
I would say that ageism is something that unfairly impacts women in the profession. We're often viewed either as too old or too young for any role. We're dismissed as being too young at the start of our careers for advancement, and then we're too old for progression to the next level. Early in my career, I had clients question why someone as junior as I was working on their files, even though my work was excellent. And I've progressed very quickly at LawPRO, but I have heard people refer to my age as a surprising factor while I've moved quickly. There are also, the obstacles associated with being a parent. When I was in private practice, I took 10 months off for one of my maternity leaves. And as I was 9 months pregnant and getting ready to transition my files to another lawyer, one client told me that they wouldn't work with me again in the future because my leave demonstrated a lack of professionalism. It was only one client, but it really stung. And another obstacle for women in the profession, I'd say, is a fear of being our true selves. I believe that people, particularly women, are afraid to show vulnerability in the workplace because it's seen as unprofessional. That is not who I am. I expect my team members to bring their authentic selves to the workplace, and they have the right to expect the same of me. If my dog dies, I'm not going to be smiling the next day, and I'm going to share with everyone that I'm sad. If we get a great compliment from a client, I'm going to print it up and put it on a brag board and tell everyone about it because I have no chill. Authenticity matters, and we have to make it okay for people, especially women, to bring their authentic selves to work.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Victoria. It's definitely a healthy point of view. Let's continue on the third question. From your perspective, what do you think we can do to boost women's access to leadership roles and create a workplace that's not only diverse, but also more equal?
I'm going to talk very specifically about managers and how they should approach this one, because I feel that you have to be really mindful that future leaders are going to promote themselves in different ways. Culturally, some people are going to be a lot more comfortable putting themselves forward with their bosses, telling others how great they are and letting them know they want more opportunities, but others are not going to be comfortable with that. Several times over the course of my career, I've had leaders come to me and ask why I hadn't gone for a role or an appointment. And each time it was because I thought I wouldn't get it. And if not for other people telling me to demonstrate more confidence, I would have missed out on some amazing things. So if you're promoting from within and you've done a good job knowing your staff, you'll know who is quietly getting things done without seeking praise for it. You'll know the ones who people go to for help, even though it's not part of their job. If you're a good manager, you've seen this and you've made opportunities for them. You've encouraged them to go for more training, to take on more responsibility. And trust me, you're never going to be disappointed if you really get to know your team and learn their potential. This is especially true for women and BIPOC members of your team that might have good reason for not pushing themselves forward, but they really are ready for a challenge.
And how do you think having role models, networks, and mentors can help women, especially in the insurance sector?
I owe a great deal of my success to informal mentors and role models, those bosses that encourage you to try something different and let you know that a setback isn't the end of the world, that they're going to stand with you. Having a counterpart in another department or a company who you can go to with questions is invaluable. I've actually retained a coach myself to help me get more comfortable with uncomfortable conversations, and that's been great. Your network, it can evolve organically through friendships and working relationships, or it can be something you take a really directed approach to. But either way, it requires work, and I don't want you to forget that. When I'm mentoring younger professionals, I tell them that the people they approach are almost always going to be well-intentioned, but they're busy people. And I feel a lot of the responsibility to make a mentoring relationship work really rests with the person who's getting mentored. You have to set up the times to meet. You have to come prepared with questions. You have to show your appreciation for the time and the knowledge that they're sharing with you, because it might feed their souls to help you out, but it's not going to feed their kids. So be respectful of their time.
Finally, what advice would you give to young girls who want to hold leadership positions in the future?
To prepare for this, I asked my assistant, what would you like to tell a young person who might be your boss one day? And her advice was, be yourself. Don't pretend to be anything other than that. Another one is, don't be scared to take a chance. You might not think you're fully qualified for that role you'd like to go for it, but that's not a reason not to try for it. If you're lucky enough to get an interview, at least you get experience with the interview process. You get senior management getting to know you. If you do get the job, people have already demonstrated confidence in you. So now all you have to do is try your best. And another thing is not to focus too much on what the job description says. This should only be a starting point. Learn more, study more, try new things, and expand your skills. When a future opportunity comes up, you should find that you're already ready for it because you've been growing all this time. Learning something new is never a waste of time.
Well, thank you, Victoria, for this very inspirational speech. For the last question, the sixth question, I will welcome Pierre Dionne. Hello, Pierre Dionne. You are Director and Chief Agent PNC in Canada. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So, I would like to ask you both a question. From your perspective, what proactive contributions can both men and women make to further enhance and sustain an inclusive environment? Who wants to start?
I can start with a bit of an off-the-wall suggestion. I'm a huge fan of new fathers taking parental leave. We know that there's an implicit bias by many against younger women in the workplace because employers worry about the time they're going to take for a parental leave. And I want lawyers to think that it's equally likely that their male staff are going to take time off to spend with their newborns. And this is in their minds when they're considering hiring either a man or woman for a role. In many organizations, it's going to take a certain amount of bravery for men to ask for the time off because there's still a lot of judgment around this. But by normalizing it, men are really helping out their female counterparts.
It's funny because that is something I had in my comments as well. I think to promote an inclusive environment, like Aretha Franklin said, it all comes down to RESPECT. And that tone, I think, is set straight from the top. I think managers are in the front line of enhancing and sustaining an inclusive environment by providing equal opportunities to both men and women, by paying the equal pay for equal job, or like Victoria said, a commitment to both maternal and paternal leave. I think women in a role of power before felt like they had to act like a man, to be tough, to be driven, never smiling. I think we've come a long way from those days. I think women bring a different skills to management, and they should just use those skills and be themselves. Empathy and kindness will take a company further than threat and intimidation. And if I can finish my comment, I'll take it down to the employees. In their daily interaction, obviously have a role to play as well. And people have to remember a workplace is not a high school. You shouldn't have cliques. You won't get along with everybody, but you shouldn't ostracize a fellow employee that doesn't look or think like you. Try to get to know them. And I think that's one of the problems with the pandemic and everybody's still working from home. We've hired 4 people in 2023 and we've barely met them. So we need to start bringing employees back to the office, even if they're kicking and screaming.
I couldn't agree more that, inclusion requires you don't exclude. Another one I might add is encourage everyone to have a voice. One of my most useful attributes is that I'm not shy about voicing my opinion. This might also be one of my most annoying habits, but it's helped me get ahead because decision makers can see that I understand what's going on, and I'm always going to share an idea on what challenges I see and how they might be overcome. Anything you do to deter people from contributing, talking over them, shooting down ideas too quickly, you have to avoid that, or you're going to miss out on getting diverse feedback and input, and that's what we need.
Thank you, Victoria and Pierre, for sharing all these very interesting and powerful ideas and for opening up about your experiences and insights on gender equality. I found this discussion incredibly valuable, bringing with practical ideas for taking tangible steps. If you haven't already, I highly recommend tuning into all the episodes of the Women of Power podcast. There, you will uncover the unique journeys of remarkable women each making their mark in various ways to contribute to a more just and equal society. If you had a good time listening this episode, let us know. You can subscribe to the podcast, give it 5 stars, and leave a comment on listening platforms. Thank you very much. Bye.